Hey everybody, welcome to another review. This one will be of the iconic Sideshow premium format Superman statue, quarter scale. A little bit of background on this. Sideshow Collectibles is a very well-known online collectibles company. They manufacture statues and props and things like that. And they've been around for quite a while. I'll go into a little bit of their history later for those of you who might be interested in another separate video. But they acquired the DC license a few years ago, a lot of excitement about that. And one of their first releases after acquiring it was to create statues of the so-called Trinity. And by Trinity, in DC Comics, we mean Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So this is their Superman. It is still one of the best Superman statues you can get. It's my favorite, which is saying quite a lot because you have a lot of choices in today's collecting world. You got the classic Superman, you got the Henry Cavill Man of Steel Superman, you got Christopher Reeve, you've got the new 52 comic version, young ones and old ones. You got 1/3 scales and 1/2 scales and 1/4 scales. So tons of Superman statues out there because of course he's an iconic and very, very popular character. But you know, for my money, this is still number one of the best. And let's talk about why that is. So first of all, my apologies. I do have this in portrait mode. The reason for this is he's just too tall. I mean, he's quarter scale, already pretty high, and then they have him on this high Fortress of Solitude base. So doing him in landscape would have been prohibitively difficult to sort of get everything in, and then you would have had Superman just essentially sitting on my huge kitchen countertop, which isn't a very good effect. So for this one, I do apologize. I do suggest you watch this in portrait mode on YouTube. So let's get a little bit closer to the action. Here he is. I'm getting an angle from below, and I'm going to turn him slowly so you can actually see what he looks like from the side view, the back. Very, very nice. So a few things to know about this, this piece. Number one, he is quarter scale. Number two, he's obviously the comic book version, not patterned after any character or any actor, excuse me. Now, he has actually fabric on him. So this is something I think that Sideshow has gotten away from recently, probably because maybe they weren't quite satisfied with the quality control, or there were some complaints about from the fans. But they're much more into sculpted statues now with multimedia fabric or leather or whatnot as sort of accents. But they did go through a phase where for both Marvel and DC characters, they significantly worked with fabric. And they're not done with it yet. I mean, I think they're releasing a half-scale, legendary scale Spider-Man. That's fabric, you know, and they've done Spider-Man quarter scales also in fabric. And this is sort of a controversial thing because, you know, some people really dislike that. So understand that even though the boots here are polystone, and the underlying statue is polystone, all of this stuff here, all of that, this is all fabric. Hopefully getting close enough, you can appreciate that. Under flash, you definitely can, okay? So again, this is all fabric. I can move it a little bit so you can see that. You can see the stitch lines right here. This is a little faux leather yellow belt. All of this is, you know, fabric, okay? All of this is fabric. You can actually clearly see the stitch lines. So that's number one. The suit is fabric. The cape is not fabric at all. This is one huge, gigantic piece of polystone cape. And there are going to be some implications for these design choices, okay? But let's start at the bottom, like we normally do. Here's the base. I quite like it. It's simple. It obviously represents the Fortress of Solitude. You can, you know, see the ice crystals and that type of thing. Nothing fancy. It doesn't detract from the statue himself. Pretty simple. Elevates him, and I kind of like that, you know, because Superman it can be argued is sort of the quintessential superhero, sort of the granddaddy of all of them. So they kind of raised them up. And it probably matches better too. They got Batman on a gargoyle and Wonder Woman on like, rocky outcrops. So they have all of the three major heroes elevated. He's got the Captain Morgan pose right here. The boots, classic, very nice. His colors are, very simple. Red, blue, yellow, the classic symbols and the classic colors of Superman. Now, what are the implications of a fabric suit over sculpted muscle? The first is, you cannot appreciate as well the muscular definition. All right, so this is going to be a style thing. Do you like the newer versions where they show Superman essentially as a completely crazy, muscular, bodybuilder? Some of the newer ones, especially the New 52 by Prime One, and and the newer versions by Sideshow. It's like these superheroes have 1% body fat. I mean, every muscle is just sharply etched, defined. That's the advantage of sculpting the suit, of sculpting the muscles. They look very, very good. Okay, and a lot of people love that. With this, you'll see it for both, Batman as well. You have more realistic anatomy underneath. You can clearly see, for instance, the biceps, the deltoids. You can see the pecs, a hint of the the rectus muscles and all of that, but it's just a hint. And the overlying that is placed the fabric suit. Okay, so there's definitely more of a sense of realism to the proportions and to the muscular anatomy of this style. And I like that. I enjoy that. I like that more than the over-the-top, over-muscled anatomy and physiology of some of the newer pieces. I kind of like the fact that Superman is super, not because he's been hitting the gym 10 hours a day. He's super because he's from Krypton, okay, and he's here on Earth, and the sun's energy gives him that strength. And I mean, as a joke, I'm jokingly saying, this guy could be on his couch with a beer gut, and you're still not hurting him. A nuclear bomb is he's still going to survive that. Bullets are going to bounce off of him. It's not the physique necessarily. It's the fact that is who he is. He's an alien. And so I've never felt the need to try to convey, at least for Superman, his powers by making him overly muscled. This might be different for some, say, like a hero like Batman, where he has to physically work out. You have to appreciate sort of the work he put in to create himself as a hero. Or maybe for another character like Daredevil, again, more heroes grounded in realism. But this guy is like a god on Earth, and he doesn't have to have muscles on muscles to convey it. So I'm very fond. I'm very happy with it. The quality of the S is really nice. It's stitched very beautifully. It's level. It's balanced. But the criticism again is you cannot see the muscles bulging out. It's more real. And people, sometimes do dislike the stitch lines along here. Now, this is, again, inevitable. You have a statue that's posed. You're going to get the fabric onto the statue. You're going to have these seam lines. It has to be tight. I think they did a great job with Superman. But over here, you can see the wrinkles here. You can see the wrinkles here. This is a inescapable reality of having fabric over muscular sculpture. You're going to have little edges and things like that. That's going to show because, again, as far as realism is concerned, they want to give you the sense that he's really wearing real clothes. So, that's going to be an issue. You can see it coming all the way down here to his wrist, all of that. And, for Batman, he ran into some problems because, they couldn't get his costume quite correctly. Maybe the factory screwed up, whatever the case may be. And he had a noticeable sort of like saggy, fabric on the armpits and that type of thing that a lot of people weren't happy with. So there are pitfalls to this type of depiction. But I, for one, at least for Superman, I quite enjoy that. I like that style. I like the fabric look. Number two, the cape is another point of contention. They did not use fabric. More recently, Sideshow has been going toward using cloth capes with wire so you can pose them. They're doing this because you can imagine it takes a lot of labor, a lot of material, and a lot of weight, both in shipping and in posing, to create a cape complete out of polystone. This cape is heavier than the actual statue himself, okay? Which creates a lot of issues. Now, the advantage of having a cape like this is when you pose him, he looks phenomenal, okay? Because you can sculpt that cape, every ripple of that cape. It looks amazing. You can never get this effect with a wire. It's just not possible, too difficult. So, in terms of artistic design, he looks amazing, and you can only get that with a sculpted cape. The problem is it is ridiculously heavy, so it makes shipping more expensive. And on top of that, there is a problem with working with it, with getting it into position. There's a design issue. Superman comes with two portraits. This is the exclusive head, and this is the effect they decided to give us to give him the illusion of heat vision. So it's supposed to be, red hot. You can actually see some of the heat rising up out of the corner of the eyes as he's about to, blast with his heat vision. This is just like plastic, okay? And there's two sets of these. This one here, and then there's another one which is just the eyes stuck in there. I have both, but I like to use this one for this head because if you just put the eyes in, it looks, okay, but it's really hard to take out. And in my opinion, this is a little bit of a missed opportunity. He was one of the first DC premium formats. It would have been fantastic to give us a Superman portrait like this one without this kind of, silly effect, and just give us light up red eyes. A lot of custom statues have that, and Sideshow later on, of course, had the ability to do that, but they didn't. There are custom heads where you can get the light up red eyes, but they're long sold out and they're very expensive. So it is kind of a downer that they weren't able to do that. So this is one portrait. Here is the regular portrait. An amazing portrait, love it. And how are you going to get this portrait onto here? Normally with Sideshow statues, you just lift the head right off, you put the new one in. Not so with him. If you look very closely, you can see that the cape is actually overlying where that head is going to be. And that means in order for you to change that head out, you have to take this entire cape off. That is really difficult because the cape is so heavy, they simply cannot allow you to pop it in. The way you get it in is you have to rotate it out of the neck slots where it sits. This is a very, very difficult thing with the weight of this cape. So it makes changing the head a serious pain in the behind, which is unfortunate because both heads are so great that sometimes you want to change them up just for the look. But now because of the cape, it becomes like this gigantic production in order to take care of this. And if you look very carefully, you can see this little tiny subtle red marks. It's almost impossible to change it out without scratching the neck with this cape. So again, kind of a difficult proposition if you want to do that, one of the disadvantages of that. But looking back, if you look at the whole statue, you can argue that it's worth it because he looks so amazing with this cape billowing out. Okay, so there you go. I also think, by the way, that this look particularly suits him because we are going for the comic book look. There's so many different types of comic book genre, comic book periods. So which Superman did Sideshow use? Which style did they decide to use? And for him, they went with the Alex Ross style, which to me is perfect. Alex Ross depicted these superheroes in a very grounded, realistic manner. That's kind of what he's known for. He's very famous for that. As you can see with the non-heat vision sculpt, this is very much a classic Alex Ross type of portrait, and he's one of my favorite artists. I love his take on superheroes, kind of like that, what if they were real? What if they look like real people look? And so because of that, and again, avoiding the over-exaggerated anatomy in both the female and the male, I like that. And if you have the Alex Ross style, then that really fits with the real fabric costume. Again, you want to feel like, you know, he could be real. And that level of realism would be destroyed with the overly cartoonish musculature. So again, you have, but you know, that's not to say that this Superman is like a twig or a weakling. He definitely has mass. You definitely can get a sense for, again, you know, the sheer size of him. And there are, you know, nice details, like, you know, take a look here at the veins of the hands, a very nice touch right here. Similar veining right over here. I really love that. Great detail on the hands. So essentially, you know, if you look at this piece, the piece is riding on a great, simple, statuesque pose, an amazing cape, very nice integration of the fabric and the multimedia, and then two phenomenal portraits along with really nice details of the hands. Okay, and so he is amazing in his simplicity, in his pose. I mean, to me, he encapsulates the perfect Superman. Very, very happy with him. And because I'm not a Superman aficionado, I don't, you know, love him as a character. I don't need 4 of them or 8 of them. I just really want one that I can hang my hat on and say, to me, this is the best Superman. You know, this is what I want in my collection, and this is it. So before moving on, I like to take some time just to, you know, focus on this alternate portrait. The head comes off this way, okay? And this here is actually not from Sideshow. This is a custom pedestal that's specifically built so that you can put your extra head and sort of display him next to the main statue. I think it's genius to think of it. A guy named John Ficci, I'm sorry, John, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Ficci or Ficci, also known as Vince Vale Customs on YouTube. He's an amazing customizer, custom painter, fabricator. He's been around for a while. He does phenomenal work. And he created these little tiny custom pedestals for a lot of characters, especially DC, with change of heads. And I really wish he would have kept on doing it, but unfortunately, I don't think all the work and effort was worth, you know, the finances, the time, and the money just in the matchup right. So I don't think he does them anymore, but I just like to give him that shout out that I really appreciate the ones he did do, that they're great, okay? And so you can see the little S here and the, you know, the cape. And so there's no doubt that this particular pedestal is for Superman's change of head. So I'm really happy with that. You can just kind of put it here and display it next to the statue. If I had my chance, I'd probably display him with this head, and I did it for a while. In fact, I think I put this head on initially, but it was more complicated to store the exclusive head with the, you know, the heat vision effects. So I put it there. Again, I would love to put this back on, but to do that would be a pretty major production in order to take the cape off and all that. So, so much for this custom pedestal for the change of head. And when I review other statues with these custom pedestals by John Ficci, I will highlight those as well. So here we go. You can see next to each other. Really, really nice. I'm going to turn on flash next and use the flash to give a little bit of detail that we can't normally see with the shadows and things.